This story took place in the dormitory of my former school, involving one of my roommates named Curly. He had a knack for making inappropriate jokes, often commenting on people's photos by saying they looked like so and so or resembled someone's family member. Moreover, he frequently browsed online news and often left random comments. In contrast, I was quite the opposite in character, timid and angry, but not daring to speak out. Knowing that reading online news could sometimes induce negative emotions, I seldom read it, and even if I did, I would just keep the anger to myself without commenting. Once he saw a news article about a fatal car accident online and left a comment underneath. I don't know exactly what he commented, but it was probably some unpleasant or mocking remarks. Ever since he left that comment on the news, the entire dormitory started to become unusual. First, he began to act irrationally and started speaking nonsensically. The worst part was that he would scream and yell at night, whether from a nightmare or something else, and his screams would wake us up. Let me also share a rather eerie incident I encountered. One time, I passed by a restroom that was not in use, with the door slightly ajar. As I passed by, I glanced into the restroom and vaguely saw what seemed to be someone standing inside. The restroom was dark, and as I approached, the figure inside gradually faded. When I reached the door and turned on the light, the restroom was empty. But when I moved away and looked back, the figure was still there. Then the restroom door gently closed by itself, and as it closed, I saw that the figure seemed to have facial features, only visible for a moment when the door shut, so I can only use seemed. My roommate encountered something too. One night, he was outside the dormitory, doing who knows what. Then, in the pitch-black hallway, he saw a figure floating in midair with only the upper body, staring at him from the center of the hallway. He got so scared that he immediately hid back in the dormitory. Seeing him rush in frantically, we asked him what happened. He told us there was a ghost outside the dormitory, so we ran to check outside. The hallway outside was pitch black with nothing there, while Curly was huddled in his bed, shivering uncontrollably. After all these incidents, we all believed that they were somehow related to Curly. However, Curly would not tell us how it all started, only mentioning that he had offended the deceased with his online comments. Later, Curly somehow got a bunch of talismans. He adorned himself with all kinds of talismans from head to toe. The last incident occurred, which was also the last time I saw Curly. One night, only Curly and I were sleeping in the dormitory. The other two roommates had gone out somewhere. I had no idea how long I had been asleep when I kept hearing Curly coughing and faintly heard him saying, "Help, I'm sorry. Forgive me." Not knowing what was going on, I looked down from my upper bunk. I saw what seemed to be a semi-transparent figure choking Curly's neck, or perhaps Curly was choking himself. I'm sorry, but I was terrified at that moment, so after just one glance, I slowly pulled my head back. Then I lay on my side, facing the wall, trembling uncontrollably, very afraid that the ghost might suddenly come for me as well. At that moment, I heard the ghost speaking, and I didn't know what words to use to describe its voice. If I had to describe it, the voice was like someone speaking through a microphone. It said, "I don't know you. Why did you speak of me like that?" Then there was another round of Curly's coughing and sounds of, "Help, I'm sorry, forgive me." I listened as Curly's coughing grew worse, fearing he might suffocate. At that moment, The other two roommates returned from somewhere. As soon as they opened the door, they heard Curly coughing and struggling, and turned on the light to ask him what he was doing. The struggling sound stopped then, and I dared to slowly climb down from my upper bunk. I saw Curly lying on his bed, breathing heavily as if he had been rescued. After being rescued, Curly immediately rushed to his drawer, took out his talismans, and quickly put them on. Because of what I had just witnessed, I was also terrified at that moment. So I don't know why his talismans were not on him. Perhaps he took them off during a shower and forgot to put them back on. The next morning, Curly called his family and told them about his current situation. After that, he went back to his hometown, and I never saw Curly again. His belongings were packed up by his family. Since Curly left the dormitory, no more strange things have occurred. Later, I heard that Curly had passed away, while others said he was admitted to a mental hospital, and it was said that the situation was not handled well. Anyway, there were many rumors, and I just let it go. Moreover, I no longer live in that school dormitory now. The story is over. So, as everyone says, one can eat indiscriminately, but one must be careful with words. Especially sometimes, if one is really careless with words, it's not only about offending the living, but sometimes even the deceased. Everyone really needs to be very careful about this. If you like this kind of story, please like it at the bottom right of the video or share it with your friends. You are also welcome to leave a comment below the video to share your thoughts.